My name is Warren Caldwell, and I'm 73 years old. For most of my life, I believe that lightning doesn't strike twice, that true love comes once, if you're lucky, and when it's gone, that's the end of the story. I was wrong. What I'm about to share with you isn't just the tale of romance. It's a testament to the resilience of the human heart, to the possibility of new beginnings when we think our story is already written. It's about the profound truth that losing someone you love doesn't mean you've lost your capacity to love again. In fact, grief can crack us open in ways that make us more capable of love, not less. I spent 5 years as a widower, convinced that my heart had been buried alongside my wife, Constance. I went through the motions of living, waking, eating, working in my garden, attending church socials, but I wasn't truly alive. I was a photograph of myself, flat and still, preserved in the amber of my past. Then, on an unremarkable Tuesday morning in October, everything changed, and I learned that the heart, that faithful muscle that has beat inside my chest for over 7 decades, still had surprises in store for me. This is the story of how I lost everything, survived, and discovered that life's greatest chapters can be written in its final act. I need to tell you about Constance first. You can't understand the magnitude of losing her without knowing what we had. We met when we were both 24 at a community theater production of Our Town. I was helping with the sets. I've always been good with my hands, and she was playing Emily Webb. I can still see her on that stage, young and luminous, delivering Thornton Wilder's heartbreaking words about how we don't really look at one another, how we take life for granted until it's gone. I remember thinking, with the certainty of a young man who knows nothing about life, I'm going to marry that woman. And I did. 6 months later, in a small church ceremony with 40 guests and her mother's homemade cake. We honeymooned at a cabin in the Poconos, where it rained for 3 days straight, and we didn't care one bit. 43 years. That's how long we had together. 43 years of morning coffee made just the way each of us liked it. 43 years of her humming while she did the crossword puzzle. 43 years of Sunday dinners, family holidays, quiet evenings reading side by side. We raised 2 children, Michael and Sarah, who grew up and moved away, as children should. We weathered job losses, health scares, the death of parents, the ordinary trials that test a marriage. What made us work? We liked each other. That's the secret nobody tells you. Love is essential, yes, but liking your spouse, genuinely enjoying their company, finding them interesting, even after you've heard all their stories, that's the foundation that holds when passion inevitably settles into something steadier. Constance made me laugh. She was sharp-witted, never cruel, but she could deliver an observation that would make me see the absurdity in something I'd been taking too seriously. She kept me from becoming rigid, from calcifying into one of those old men who bark at the world for changing. And I gave her stability. She was a dreamer, prone to flights of fancy and big ideas that needed someone to help make them real. I was her anchor, and she was my sail. Together, we moved forward. The diagnosis came on a Thursday. Pancreatic cancer, stage 4. The oncologist delivered the news with practiced compassion, but the words felt unreal, like dialogue from a television show we'd accidentally walked into. "How long?" I asked, my voice coming from somewhere outside my body. "With treatment, possibly a year. Without it, perhaps 4 to 6 months. Constance took my hand. Her palm was warm, alive, and I remember thinking, this hand will be cold someday soon, and nearly vomiting right there in the doctor's office. She chose treatment not because she believed it would save her, but because she wanted to give us time. Time to say everything that needed saying. Time to prepare, as much as anyone can prepare for the impossible. Those next 8 months were the worst and the best of my life, Worst for obvious reasons. Watching someone you love deteriorate, feeling utterly helpless as the disease ravages them. Best because we were intensely, painfully present with each other. We said all the things people leave unsaid. We laughed when we could. We cried without shame. We held hands through the nausea, the weakness, the indignity of a body failing. "Promise me something," she said one evening in May. We were sitting on the back porch, watching the sunset. She was so thin by then, swallowed by my old cardigan that she'd claimed as her own. "Anything," I said. "Don't let this be the end of your story, Warren. I want you to keep living, really living, not just going through the motions." "Con, I mean it." Her grip on my hand was surprisingly strong. "You have good years left. Don't waste them mourning me. Mourn for a while, yes, but then open yourself up to life again, to possibility, even to love if it finds you." "There's no one else," I said, my throat tight. "There could never be anyone else." She smiled, sad and knowing. "That's your grief talking, sweetheart. When you're ready, and you will be ready someday, don't feel guilty. You're not betraying me by living. You'd be honoring me." She died 3 weeks later, at home, with me holding her hand and Sarah and Michael keeping vigil. Her last words were, "It was a good life, Warren. Thank you for sharing it with me." Then she was gone, just like that. One moment she was there, and the next she was an absence so vast it seemed to swallow the world. The first year was survival. I don't remember much of it, honestly. People brought casseroles I didn't eat. I attended a grief support group where we sat in a circle like broken things, trying to tape ourselves back together. I went to the cemetery every Sunday, standing at her grave as if she might suddenly sit up and tell me this had all been a terrible joke. Sarah and Michael worried. They called constantly, visited when they could, encouraged me to get out and do things. I appreciated their concern, but they didn't understand. How could they? They'd never lost the person who made them feel most alive. By the second year, I developed a routine. Wake at 6, coffee, read the paper, work in the garden, lunch, more garden work or errands, evening television, bed by 9. Repeat. It was a life, technically. I was breathing, eating, sleeping. But I felt like a ghost haunting my own existence. I sold our house, too many memories, too many rooms echoing with her absence, and moved into a smaller place in Bellport, a quiet town upstate where I knew no one, and no one knew me as Warren who lost his wife. I wanted to shed that identity, even though it clung to me like a second skin. The third year was better. The grief was still there, but it had lost its sharp edges. I began to engage with life again in small ways. I joined a book club at the local library. I volunteered at the community garden. I even traveled a bit, a trip to Ireland that Constance had always wanted to take, which I did in her honor. By the 4th and 5th years, I'd reached an equilibrium. I was content, or so I told myself. Content with my quiet life, my simple routines, my memories. I had my children and grandchildren. I had friends. I had enough. And then came that Tuesday in October, the day that changed everything. I'd gone to the farmer's market that morning. It was something I did every Tuesday, more for the ritual of it than from necessity. I liked walking among the stalls, smelling fresh bread and apples, chatting with the vendors who'd come to know me. I was examining tomatoes at Martha Henderson's stand when I heard a crash behind me. I turned to see a woman crouched on the ground, trying to gather dozens of oranges that had spilled from a broken bag. She was laughing, actually laughing, as they rolled away from her in every direction. "Oh, for heaven's sake," she said to no one in particular. Could I be any clumsier? Without thinking, I knelt down and started helping her collect the runaway fruit. We reached for the same orange at the same moment, and our hands touched. I looked up into her face, and something shifted in my chest. a feeling I'd forgotten existed, a little jolt, like a spark catching dry tinder. She had gray hair cut short and practical, laugh lines around her eyes, and the most genuine smile I'd seen in years. She wore jeans and a purple sweater, and there was a smudge of what looked like paint on her cheek. "Thank you," she said, her eyes meeting mine. "I swear these things have a mind of their own." "Happy to help," I managed, suddenly aware that I was an old man kneeling on cobblestones, probably looking ridiculous. But she was looking at me like I was just a person helping another person. Nothing more, nothing less. We gathered the oranges, and when we stood, she extended her hand. "I'm Della Pritchard, and I clearly need to invest in sturdier grocery bags." "Warren Caldwell, and I think that bag was a lost cause from the start." She laughed again, and I realized I'd been trying to make her laugh. When had I last tried to make anyone laugh? "Are you new to Bellport?" I asked, not ready for the conversation to end. "Moved here 3 months ago. I'm a painter, needed a change of scenery from the city. Thought a small town might inspire something different." She paused, studying me with an openness that should have been uncomfortable, but wasn't. "And you? Are you a Bellport native or a transplant like me?" "Transplant. 5 years now. I was a civil engineer. Retired." "Was?" She picked up on the word immediately. I am retired. Sometimes I forget I'm not working anymore." I know that feeling. We spend so much of our lives being what we do professionally. It's strange when that ends, and we have to figure out who we are without it. She understood. In just a few sentences, this stranger understood something fundamental about this stage of life. "Would you—" I hesitated, surprised by my own boldness. "Would you like to get coffee? There's a good cafe just around the corner. If you're not busy, that is." She looked at me for a long moment, and I saw something flicker in her eyes. Recognition, maybe, or possibility. "I'd like that very much," she said. We went to Maggie's Cafe, a cozy place with mismatched chairs and excellent scones. We stayed for 3 hours. 3 hours felt like 30 minutes. We talked about everything and nothing. Books, the election, the changing seasons, the challenges of small-town life. She told me about her painting, how she worked in oils and was fascinated by light, by the way it transformed ordinary scenes into something transcendent. I told her about my garden, how working with soil and plants had become a kind of meditation for me. Neither of us mentioned the obvious, that we were both old enough to have lived full lives before this moment. But the unspoken hung between us, adding weight to the conversation. We weren't young people with endless time. Every connection at our age carried the knowledge of life's finitude. When we finally left the cafe, the sun was beginning to set, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose. "I enjoyed this," Della said simply. "More than I expected to, honestly." "Me too." I paused, gathering courage. "Could we do it again? Perhaps dinner sometime?" He smiled, and again I felt that small spark. "I'd like that, Warren. I'd like that very much." We exchanged numbers, and I walked home feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Anticipation. That night, lying in bed, I felt guilty. Guilty for enjoying myself. Guilty for feeling attracted to someone who wasn't Constance. Guilty for even considering that I might be ready to open my heart again. But I also heard Constance's voice, clear as if she were lying beside me. "Don't let this be the end of your story, Warren." We began seeing each other regularly. Coffee once a week became dinner twice a week, became long afternoon walks through Bellport's parks and trails. We went to a matinee showing of a classic film festival at the local theater. She invited me to her studio where I saw her paintings, luminous landscapes that captured something essential about light and shadow, presence and absence. I invited her to see my garden, which was my own kind of canvas. She admired the raised beds I'd built, the orderly rows of late-season vegetables, the perennials I'd carefully selected for year-round interest. "You're an artist too," she said, standing among the asters and sedum. You just work with living materials. With Della, I felt something I'd fought lost. The thrill of discovery. Learning someone new. Finding unexpected connections. Feeling the gentle buzz of attraction. But it was different from how it had been with Constance. We weren't young. We didn't have the luxury of time or the naivete of youth. We came to each other as fully formed people, carrying our histories, our losses, our scars. One evening over dinner at her place, she'd made a simple pasta with vegetables from my garden. She told me about her husband, Leonard. He died 7 years ago, heart attack. He was here one morning, complaining about the cost of coffee, and gone by afternoon. She stirred her wine, not looking at me. No warning, no time to say goodbye. I was angry for years. Angry at him for leaving, angry at myself for all the things left unsaid, angry at the universe for its randomness. "I'm sorry," I said. "Thank you. It gets easier, doesn't it? The grief doesn't go away, but you learn to carry it differently." She looked up then, meeting my eyes. I never thought I'd want to share my life with someone again. Leonard and I had 40 years. It seemed greedy to ask for more happiness. "It's not greedy," I said quietly. "It's human. Is it hard for you?" she asked. "Being here with me? I assume you were married?" "For 43 years. Constance. She died 5 years ago. Cancer." Della reached across the table and took my hand. Her touch was warm, alive, present. "Tell me about her." And I did. For the first time since Constance's death, I talked about her, really talked about her, with someone who wasn't family, who hadn't known her. I told Della about how we met, about our life together, about those final months. I cried a little and wasn't ashamed. "She sounds wonderful," Della said when I finished. She was. She made me promise something before she died, that I wouldn't let grief be the end of my story, that I'd stay open to life, to possibility. I paused, feeling vulnerable, but needing to be honest. "I think she'd like you." Della's eyes filled with tears. "Leonard would like you too. He'd be pleased that I found someone kind, someone who understands what it means to have loved and lost." That night, we didn't kiss. We weren't ready yet. But we held hands, and that simple connection carried more weight than any passionate embrace of my youth. Not everyone was pleased about my budding relationship. Michael called one Sunday, ostensibly to check in, but really to probe. "Sarah said you've been seeing someone?" "Her name is Della. She's a painter. We've been spending time together." A long pause. "Mom hasn't even been gone 6 years, Dad." The words stung, as they were meant to. "Your mother told me not to spend the rest of my life alone, Michael." "Did she tell you to replace her?" "I'm not replacing her. No one could replace your mother." I kept my voice steady, though anger was building. "Della is a friend, someone I enjoy spending time with. I'm allowed to have that." "A friend? Come on, Dad. We both know what this is." "Then say it, Michael. What is it exactly that bothers you?" Another pause. "It feels disrespectful to Mom's memory." I took a breath, choosing my words carefully. "Your mother and I had a wonderful marriage. Nothing can diminish that or change it. But she's gone, Michael. I'm still here, and I have years left, God willing, that I can either spend alone or spend building something new. Your mother wanted me to choose the latter." "I need time to process this," he said finally. "Take all the time you need, but I'm not asking permission." Sarah was more receptive, but cautious. "I just want you to be happy, Dad. But are you sure you're ready? Sometimes loneliness can make us rush into things." "I'm not rushing. Della and I are taking things slowly. We're both adults who've been through loss. We understand what we're doing." "Okay," she said, though I heard the doubt in her voice. "I'd like to meet her sometime, when you're ready." The hardest resistance, though, came from within. There were moments when I'd catch myself laughing at something Della said and feel a wave of guilt. How dare I be happy when Constance was gone? There were nights when I dream of Constance and wake feeling like I'd betrayed her by spending my waking hours with someone else. Della had her own struggles. Once, when I reached to hold her hand during a movie, she pulled away instinctively, then apologized. "I'm sorry. Sometimes it feels strange, being touched by someone who isn't Leonard, like I'm doing something wrong." "I understand," I said, and I did. We both carried ghosts. The question was whether we could make room for each other alongside them. It came in December, 3 months after we'd met. Bellport was holding its annual holiday festival, with carolers and hot cider and strings of lights transforming the town square into something magical. Della and I attended together, bundled in coats and scarves, our breath misting in the cold air. We wandered through the craft stalls, listened to the choir, watched children ice skating on the small rink set up for the occasion. "This reminds me of when my kids were young," I said, watching a little girl wobble on her skates, her father holding her steady. "We used to bring them to things like this. They'd drink hot chocolate until they were wired, and we'd carry them home half asleep." "Those are good memories," Della said softly. "They are. But they're also sad now, because Constance should be here remembering them with me." Della stopped walking and turned to face me. "Warren, can I tell you something?" Of course, when Leonard died, I thought my capacity for joy died with him. Everything good reminded me of what I'd lost. I couldn't listen to music without remembering how he loved jazz, couldn't eat certain foods without remembering meals we'd shared. It was like the whole world had become a minefield of grief. "Yes," I said, "exactly like that." But eventually, I realized something. Those memories, those associations, they weren't traps. They were gifts. Yes, they made me sad sometimes, but they also meant that Leonard was still part of my life, in a way. That what we had together still mattered, still shaped who I was. She took my hands in hers. "You can remember Constance and still make new memories with me. Those things don't cancel each other out. Love doesn't work like that. The heart isn't a pie that gets used up. It's more like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets." I looked at this remarkable woman, this unexpected gift, and felt something break open in my chest. Not painfully, but like ice cracking in spring, making way for new growth. "I'm falling in love with you," I said, the words surprising me even as I spoke them. I didn't think I could. I didn't think I wanted to. But I am. Della's eyes shimmered with tears. "I'm falling in love with you too, and it terrifies me." "Me too," I admitted, "because I know what it costs. I know what it means to lose someone you love." "So do I." She squeezed my hands. "But I also know what it costs to live without love, to play it safe and keep your heart locked away. That's a different kind of death, Warren. A slower one, maybe, but just as final." Around us, the festival continued. Carols played. Children laughed. Lights twinkled in the darkness. The world kept turning, indifferent to our small human drama. But in that moment, we made a choice, both of us, together, to take the risk. I kissed her then, for the first time. It was tentative and sweet, and nothing like kissing Constance had been. It was its own thing entirely, and that was okay. When we pulled apart, she was smiling through tears. "Well," she said, "that was worth waiting 70 years for." I laughed, feeling lighter than I had in half a decade. Agreed. The months that followed weren't without challenges. Blending two established lives, two sets of routines, two collections of memories, it required patience and compromise and constant communication. Della was used to working late into the night when inspiration struck, then sleeping until noon. I was an early riser who liked structure. We had to negotiate, to find rhythms that worked for both of us. My children came around, slowly. Michael met Della in January, and I could see him trying, really trying, to give her a fair chance. By the end of dinner, he'd relaxed enough to ask about her painting, to show genuine interest. "She makes you happy," he said to me later, when Della had stepped away. "I can see that. I'm sorry I was resistant." "You were protecting your mother's memory," I said. "I understand that. But your mother would want this for me. She'd want it for all of us. For us to keep living, to keep finding joy." Sarah embraced Della immediately, hungry for another woman in the family after losing her mother. They bonded over art. Sarah was a graphic designer, and soon were having regular lunches without me. "I'm not trying to be their mother," Della assured me once. "I could never do that." "You're being yourself. That's all they need." We introduced each other to our friends, merged our social circles. We traveled together. A trip to Maine in the summer, where we stayed in a little cottage by the ocean and spent our days exploring tide pools and our evenings reading on the porch. We talked about our fears, our hopes, our regrets. We shared the wisdom we'd accumulated over 7 decades of living. We were honest about our failings, our health concerns, the reality of aging. "I might not have many years left," I said to her once, lying in bed after making love. Yes, we did that, and it was wonderful in its own way, free of the performance anxiety of youth, focused on connection rather than acrobatics. "Neither might I," she said. "But that's always been true, hasn't it? We never know how much time we have. Young people forget that. They think they're immortal. We know better. So we make the most of what we have." Exactly. We don't waste time on petty arguments or grudges. We say "I love you" often. We're present with each other. That's all we can do. Looking back now, I've learned some things about love after 60 that I wish I could tell my younger self. First, grief and love can coexist. You don't have to be over someone to love someone new. The heart is large enough to hold both. I still miss Constance. I still think of her, talk to her sometimes when I'm working in the garden. But I also love Della. These aren't competing truths. They're complementary ones. Second, every love is unique. I don't compare what I have with Della to what I had with Constance. That would be pointless and unfair to both relationships. Each love has its own texture, its own landscape. What Della and I share is influenced by our age, our losses, our accumulated wisdom. It's not better or worse than young love. It's different. Third, time is precious, so don't waste it. When you're young, you think you have forever to work through issues, to grow together, to get things right. At our age, we know better. We don't have time for game playing or unnecessary drama. We're direct with each other. We forgive quickly. We choose our battles carefully. Fourth, physical intimacy changes, but doesn't disappear. Yes, our bodies are older. Things don't work quite the way they used to. But there's something deeply beautiful about being intimate with someone who accepts your aging body, who finds you attractive despite or because of your scars and soft edges. There's less performance, more presence. Less ego, more connection. Fifth, independence is important. Della and I don't live together. We've talked about it and decided that at our age, we each need our own space. She needs her studio and her late-night painting sessions. I need my garden and my early morning routines. We spend several nights a week together, but we also have our separate lives. This works for us. Sixth, it's okay to need time. Some days, grief hits me out of nowhere. I'll see something that reminds me of Constance, and I'll need to sit with that sadness. Della understands. She has her own days when Leonard feels very present. We've learned to hold space for each other's grief without taking it personally. Seventh, community matters. We're not just building a relationship between the two of us. We're blending families, friend groups, routines. We're creating a new community. This takes effort and intention, but it's worth it. We're not alone in the world. We have people who love us and support us. Eighth, humor is essential. We laugh together every day about the absurdities of aging, about politics, about our own foibles. Laughter keeps us young in spirit even as our bodies age. It's the lubricant that keeps the machinery of relationship running smoothly. Ninth, gratitude is everything. Every day I spend with Della is a gift I didn't expect to receive. I don't take it for granted. I try to say thank you, to express appreciation, to notice the small things she does that make my life better. 10th, it's never too late. This is the big one, the lesson I most want people to understand. It's never too late to fall in love, to start over, to take a chance on happiness. Society tells us that romance is for the young, that older people should be content with memories. That's nonsense. Love is a human need that doesn't expire. Don't let anyone, including yourself, tell you it's too late. It's been 2 years since that Tuesday in October when I met Della among the rolling oranges. We're still together, still learning each other, still building our life. Last month, Michael told me he's glad I found her. Mom would approve, he said simply, and I had to turn away so he wouldn't see me tear up. Della's painting has evolved. She's working on a series about light and shadow, presence and absence, the way past and present coexist. I see Constance and Leonard in those paintings, the way loss shapes the landscape of our lives. But I also see hope, the way light always finds its way through the darkness. My garden is thriving. Della has added her touches. Brightly colored pots, a small sculpture she made, a bench where we sit together in the evenings. It's not the garden I had with Constance. It's the garden I'm creating with Della. And it's beautiful. We don't talk about the future much. At our age, every day is the future. We focus on the present. This morning's coffee, this afternoon's walk, this evening's conversation. We say, I love you freely. We kiss often. We hold hands like teenagers. Are we naive to think we can build something lasting at our age? Maybe, but I prefer to think we're realistic. We know how fragile life is. We know that every moment together is borrowed time. So we make the most of it. I think about that night when Constance made me promise to keep living. At the time, I couldn't imagine how. Now I understand. Living doesn't mean forgetting. It means carrying your past with you while remaining open to the future. It means honoring what you've lost while embracing what you've found. Constance is still with me. She's in the roses I planted that were her favorite color. She's in the way I take my coffee, the habits I can't break, the lessons she taught me about love and commitment. She shaped who I am, and that will never change. But Della is with me too, in the present tense. She's here, alive, holding my hand, making me laugh, challenging me to keep growing, even at 73. I'm one of the lucky ones. I've loved deeply twice in one lifetime. Not everyone gets that chance. To anyone reading this who thinks their story is over, who believes love is only for the young, who's locked their heart away to protect it from more pain, I understand. I was you. But I'm here to tell you that lightning can strike twice, that the heart you thought was broken can mend, that there are chapters yet to be written in your story. All you have to do is stay open to possibility. Say yes when life offers you an unexpected gift. Take the risk, even when it terrifies you. Choose love over safety, even when you know what it costs. Because here's what I've learned. A life without love, even love that comes with the risk of loss, isn't really living. It's just passing time until the end. And we all deserve better than that, no matter our age. My name is Warren Caldwell. I'm 73 years old, and I'm in love. If I can do it, so can you. The end is really just another beginning. If you're brave enough to see it.